then you know he's on top. Million subs, he never gonna flop. Out of Chicago, where the streets don't sleep. Betting on games, making cash real deep. Crystal ball for sports, he knows the lines. He's a sports aficionado, the money he finds. From football to basketball, he's always on point. Predicting winners never disappoints. He's got that hustle, that Chicago vibe. Making moves on the streets, cash on the side. With E, you know it's always a bet. He's the king of the game, never forget.
Hello and welcome to the Etoft21sports Show for July 16th. How's everyone doing? My name is Erik. I'm the man behind Etoft21sports. Absolutely loaded episode for you today. My boy Bryce from the INeeeeditSportsPod. Him and I are going to give you a betting preview for the AFC West. Gino will have his horse racing bet of the day from Saratoga, and I will tell you why you need to target Davante Adams in your fantasy football drafts. But before we get into all that, I would like to say thank you to the sponsor of the show, Parlay Play. If you're not using Parlay Play, go to the App Store, download the Parlay Play app, use promo code NFL Betting Blitz for a nice little deposit bonus. Now, let's shift our attention over to Saratoga and see what Gino has cooking for us.
For our best bet this week, let's head to Saratoga for Friday. Big racing all over the place. Saratoga, Del Mar's opening up this weekend with opening day on Saturday. I'm going to go to race 5 on Friday, and we're going to take a look at the number 8 in here. This is Our Finest Hour, who has done really nothing wrong overall in her 4-race career. She's going to add the blinkers. She's going to drop in class. She's faced a little bit tougher. She's had legitimate trouble in a couple, and I think this is a perfect spot for her. Just put a line through that last race. She just never really got involved, and they were going slow early that day. So I think Our Finest Hour, 8-1 on the morning line. Anything around 4-1 feels like fair value on Our Finest Hour. Make sure to get the drf.com all summer long for any help that you need when you're playing the races. drf.com.
Make sure to give my boy Gino a follow at It's Me Gino B on X. Now we're going to shift our attention over to the Fantasy Football Spotlight, and the player in the Fantasy Football Spotlight this week is none other than Mr. Davante Adams. I absolutely love Davante Adams this year in fantasy football. His ADP is 18. He is currently wide receiver 13 going off the board, which is too low for a player that has had 4 straight top 12 seasons, has had a 30% target share with multiple quarterbacks over the last 5 seasons. Per Tyler Beecher on Twitter, his weighted opportunity rating last 4 seasons: first, second, first. With Minshew at quarterback, this will continue. Last season, Minshew had a 28% target share to the first read. And who's going to be the first read? You guessed it, Davante Adams. Pittman was the first read in the Colts offense where Minshew targeted him 30% of the time. Plus, in the Getsy offense, it's a first read offense. Let's look what DJ Moore did last season with his 29% target share. With a QB that throws to the first read and an offense that's designed to get the ball to the first read, this is where Adams is absolutely going to thrive. Right now, you can hear him in the second round. He is going to be a top 8 guy. Just makes sense you to draft Davante Adams, and that is why he is in the Fantasy Football Spotlight this week. Now, let's welcome the man of the hour. Eager to talk to him. I haven't talked to him in a bit. He's become a nice friend. Him and I text a lot. He was just at the WNBA game. Interesting to pick his brain about that. Bryce, how are you doing today, my man?
Doing good. Welcome back. It's always good to be on the show, Erik. Thanks for having me. And yeah, it feels like we haven't talked since, I guess, probably the end of the NBA season. So it's been a minute, but life has been good.
It's been a while, man.
Good with you. Yeah.
It has been a while. You went to the WNBA game. Why don't you tell everyone how that was and everything, and how you got your tripod taken away from you?
Oh, yeah. So a couple weeks ago, I went to the Las Vegas Aces versus Indiana Fever game, see Asia Wilson versus Caitlin Clark. And I have this little tripod that has a magnet for my phone. so it makes it easier to kind of vlog for the podcast. And I'm walking in, and security like taps me on the shoulder as I'm approaching the gate and is like, "You can't have that." And at first, I thought he was talking about my like bag that I was wearing across my shoulder. I was like, "Dang," because it wasn't a clear bag, so I thought maybe that clear bag policy. So I was like, "Oh, the bag." It's like, "No, that right there." I'm like, "You mean this tripod?" And the tripod is literally like this big. And he's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "It's a tripod." He's like, "I know. You can't bring it in because it can be used as a weapon." And so they have actual lockers set up that you can rent for $25 plus tax. So I had to download an app, rent a locker out, and throw my tripod in there before I entered the game. But game was electric, man. Sold out crowd, obviously. Caitlin Clark effect. Asia Wilson balled out. I think she finished with 28. The one who stole the show though was Kelsey Plum. She had 34 that night. And that night Shannon Sharp was there, and I don't know what they have going on, but I think there might be a little bit of beef there with Kelsey Plum, Asia Wilson, and Shannon Sharp. But she was hitting a few shots, and she was taking a look towards the sideline at him as if to say, like, hey, like, because he's been a big proponent of Caitlin Clark and how much she's done for the women's game, and he's kind of neglected some of them, who've been doing their thing for years, and they kind of took that personal, and they whooped up on the Indiana Fever that game. But that was a pretty good one. First WNBA game since I want to say like 2019 when I went to see the Dallas Wings, but definitely excited to go to more. Hope to catch a few more before the season is over with. So,
yeah, I have not been down to Chicago yet to see my girl Angel. Definitely on the bucket list. Want to get that done before I leave for my little vacay. I was talking to you about it. $600 to go to a goddamn Oakland. I mean, dude, that just seems like way too much money for me to fly out to Oakland just so I could watch my Oakland A's play one more game at the Coliseum. But we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about the AFC. We start our football previews. Last week, we previewed the NFC South. Missed that. It's live on my YouTube channel. Got a couple questions coming in. Oops. How bad is Bo Nix going to be?
oh, I think I seen something somewhere where Sean Payton in an interview said he reminded him of Patrick Mahomes. I don't know what footage of Bo Nix he was watching, but that was one of the weirdest picks. If it wasn't for Atlanta drafting Penix at 8, Bo Nix at 12 was definitely one of the worst picks of the first round, but it doesn't get much attention because of the Atlanta pick. I don't know. He's definitely not Drew Brees, even though that's what people were saying when he was picked, and they're saying Sean Payton can mold him. I honestly, maybe I'm wrong on this. I have a bad opinion, but I don't think Sean Payton is as great of a coach as people make him out to be. He's got one Super Bowl that was damn near 2 decades ago at this point. Bunch of failure seasons afterwards. Then last year he comes in to Denver, says that the job Nathaniel Hackett did was so garbage and he'll do so much better. They did the exact same thing, and then Russell Wilson is out of there. Now this is his QB, but I would suspect they're still at the bottom of the division, and then it's like, what is Denver doing? As a Chiefs fan, I love it because they just seem to be pushing their franchise back years and years in a rebuild. But yeah, the Bo Nix experiment, I don't know what the deal with that is. And then also they got Zach Wilson, so who knows? I don't know who's going to be starting, honestly, and Jarrett Stidham because he likes him as well.
Zach Wilson, the MILF Hunter. Can Harbaugh make this interesting?
I think
I'm going to say this. They lost Joseph Day up front, and they're not going to be able to stop the run. So I'm a little bit out on the Chargers.
Yeah, I get it. Harbaugh is a great coach. Obviously, what he did with the 49ers way back when, what he did with Stanford, and then now Michigan winning the championship last year. As a Chiefs fan watching the AFC West my whole life, I'm just not going to believe in the Chargers until I actually see it. That's just what it is at this point, because one way or another, they find a way to charger it up. Maybe Harbaugh can turn things around, but I don't think he'll make it interesting this year. I think he can, vie for second. Will that get you a playoff spot in this year's wild card with how deep the AFC is? That's a question, yet to be seen. But I don't think he makes it interesting in terms of competing with the Chiefs this year right off the bat. But I think they'll turn things around a little bit.
A couple Chiefs questions. I'll tie them into two. Chiefs going to win 3 in a row. Is there any way the Chiefs loses the division? You're a Chiefs fan. This is all you, my friend.
The only way we don't win the division is if something happens to Patrick Mahomes, Chris Jones, or Travis Kelce. And if those 3 are healthy, they can very much win 3 in a row. I was actually thinking about that because I seen some sports show talking about it earlier today. And I was thinking they were talking about the Patriots, the last team to go back-to-back. And that following year, after winning the back-to-back, I think they went out in the divisional. The one thing that is different between us and the Patriots of 03-04, and sorry if there's any Tom Brady stands or Patriot fans in here, but we just got to keep it a buck and be honest. Difference is that Patriots team, Tom Brady was a game manager. He did it very well, but he was a game manager. He was in no way, shape, or form the best quarterback in the league. Right now, you got Patrick Mahomes at the apex of his game. So even in the games where you might be off a little bit on offense or defense, when you got a guy like that behind center, he can literally take over the game himself. And we've seen him do that literally since he stepped into the league. So as long as you got him with Andy Reid calling plays, I wouldn't rule it out. Statistically speaking, obviously this has never happened. So the chances of them winning 3 in a row are slim. But as long as those 3 core guys stay healthy, I think this year we'll have a much better offense. I think sky's the limit. We're returning most of the defense besides L'Jarius Sneed. That one hurts, but I saw that one coming. We weren't going to be able to pay him. But I think we'll be just fine. And at the very least, I think we'll be in the AFC Championship. I think, that'll be, I guess, 7 years in a row now. And once we get there, anything can happen. So,
let's jump right into our previews. The first team we're going to talk about is the Chargers. Plus 4,500 to win the Super Bowl, plus 2,200 to win the AFC, plus 320 to win the AFC West to make the playoffs, plus 110, no, minus 130, no, over under 8.5. What say you, my friend?
I give them 9 to 10 wins. I think they can pull that off. I think we're going to see kind of what we've seen from Michigan over the years. Chargers, their wide receiver core, they lost Keenan Allen, Mike Williams this offseason, 2 of Herbert's favorite targets. Obviously, they both had quite a bit of injury history throughout the years. Keenan Allen's been relatively healthy lately, but Mike Williams last year obviously out with the torn ACL. You see them gone. Now Herbert is left with the rookie from last year, Johnston, and then Josh Palmer. Those guys are both, at this point in their careers, I would say, at the highest, a good wide receiver 2, probably more so wide receiver 3. They did get Lab McConkey in the draft. I think that was a good pick. But their first pick of the draft, Joe Alt, is I think what they're going to try to make their bread and butter. You go out, get Gus Edwards. I think Harbaugh is definitely going to try to pound the rock a lot, try to keep, the ball out of Herbert's hands and just have him kind of game manage, run the play action, play solid defense, because they still do have a bunch of good defensive guys as long as they can stay healthy on that end. I could see them finding a way to get 9-10 wins. But like I said, in this year's AFC West or AFC, it's so deep. I don't know if 9-10 wins and you finishing second in your division is going to get you into the playoffs necessarily. But they definitely have the talent to flip from last year, in which they went, I think, 5-12. It was just an abysmal year from start to finish and plagued by injuries. So,
new coaching staff. Will they finally get out the most out of this team? One of the most talented rosters in recent years. And here's my weird thought. If Herbert doesn't get hurt, this team could make the playoffs. Harbaugh's still coaching at Michigan, coaching somewhere else. So that Herbert injury against the Patriots, it kind of changed the landscape of football when you kind of think about it. How will Herbert do in this offense? You mentioned it, real run heavy. When you look at his last couple of years, last 4, 5th, 3rd, 2nd, and 3rd in pass attempts. Now he's switching to a run heavy approach with Greg Roman, the OC, coming in. After last season's disaster run blocking where they were dead last, makes sense. They brought in Joe Alt to shore that up. He's going to play the right side. This is an interesting stat. Every year that Roman has been an OC, the rushing offense has been a top 10 except for one, and that is when it's finished 11th. They last year, no, sorry, there was that 1 year, 2 years ago in Baltimore where they didn't have Lamar, didn't have Dobbins, didn't have Edwards. Their top three were all out, and they still were top three in the league rushing. I mean, his scheme's basic. Just run to the side of the field that has more blockers in the defense. Losing Williams and Allen, you mentioned it. Who's going to move the chains? I talk about it all the time. Who's the number one wide receiver? Who's the dependable wide receiver that can move the change? Obviously, wouldn't shock me if one of the tight ends, maybe Hayden Hurst, who has ties to Greg Roman, is their leading wide receiver. I hated the pick of Ladd McConkey. Would have loved for them to take Walker out of UNC or Coleman out of Florida State instead. What is Palmer going to be? Palmer is the one that has the relationship with Herbert, over 300 abandoned targets. Minter coming in from Michigan. How is he going to adapt from the college game from the NFL game? The thing that really stood out to me is this is going to be, they moved everyone to keep Mack and Bosa, but they let Day go. Personally, I think that is going to be a big loss because you're going to be able to run on the Chargers. I like the defense, this rotational coverage stuff they do. I really like very sophisticated stuff that Minter is going to put in. Pythagorean rim total says they should be the most improved team in the league. Negative 10-day rest advantage, 5th worst in the league. You mentioned them in close games. They were 3-8 last year in close games. I think the upgrade in coaching will improve that. I'm not going to take any futures on them, but the one that I'm very interested in, because I mentioned the rushing, is their rookie Vidal at 250-1 to win Offensive Rookie of the Year. If you're just looking to throw something at the wall and see if it sticks, because this is going to be a rushing attack, why not take him? Dobbins, I mean, he's a walking injury.
Yeah.
Dust bus, Vidal, 250-1 Rookie of the Year. I'm interested in that. But I mean, everything else in this team, I want nothing to do with.
Yeah, I was gonna bring that up about the J.K. Dobbins pickup because obviously his whole career has been plagued with injuries since he got in the league, and then you go to the Chargers who have a history of just injuries, and I feel like it's not complete causation of it, but I feel like they just have a weaker training staff with some of the injuries they have year in and year out, and then add on top of that, he's now on a turf field. If he was struggling the way he was in Baltimore, I can only imagine what turf could do to his body up in LA. So, yeah, Gus Edwards, Vidal, I think they'll probably be carrying most of the load. And then I guess it just comes down to now. I mean, it is year one, so I don't want to be like, too out of proportion. But say the Chargers still don't have a good year, and you just made Herbert one of the highest paid quarterbacks in the league. We've always said he's got so much talent, and they have the running joke where they call him the if man because every Chargers fan is like, well, if this happened and if this person stayed healthy, Herbert would do this and that. This year, I feel like he's got to show some major improvements and make the playoffs realistically, just to show like, hey, the talks you've been getting, the play needs to back it up at this point. Now you're supposed to be some phenom, some uber talented quarterback. Arm strength out of this world, and some people still put him in their top 5 today. So it's got to come with some results eventually.
I agree 100%. They should have won that game. I think that's more on Staley than him. In terms of the other stuff, I agree with you. This is kind of put up or shut up time now, but you need that wide receiver one. Now, I'll be honest, even if they trade for Ayuk, I'm not the biggest Ayuk guy. I think him coming there, and it really doesn't do much for me. They don't have a number one, so I think they got to get him another weapon, because, I mean, they lost over 300 targets.
Yeah.
That's a lot of targets, man. But I agree with you. He definitely has to start doing something, or he's going to be in the, hey, you know what? You're just not that. you're a middle tier quarterback. Like, I don't know how you look at quarterbacks, but I put them in 3 categories. Like elite, like elevates people is category 1. Category 2 is needs help. Category 3 is just a starter. And category 4 should be a backup. I mean, and right now I have Herbert in category on the top tier of kind of category 2, trying to get into that category 1. But if he doesn't do it, probably this year and next year, I'm going to put him down a peg. That's kind of where I have Herbert right now. Next team that we are going to is we're going to Denver. 300-1 to win the Super Bowl, 150-1 to win the AFC, plus 1,800 to win the AFC West, plus 700 to make the playoffs, minus 1,100 not to make the playoffs, over under a whopping 5. What do you think about Denver, my friend?
Man, growing up, I hated Denver. That was back in the days. I think it started off when I first started really watching football. They had Jake Plummer, Clinton Portis, Champ Bailey. They used to whoop up on us. Then obviously you had the Peyton Manning era in Denver, and they won the AFC West for I think 5 years in a row or so, won the Super Bowl. And ever since, it has just been downhill, bad move after bad move. And this offseason just seems like a compilation of kind of all those bad moves over the year.
Yeah.
And they did the same exact thing. As a Chiefs fan, I love it because I think it just pushed their franchise back another like 3-4 years. They lost Justin Simmons, all-pro safety, released him. They got off of Jerry Jeudy because that relationship there just was never good from the start. Cortland Sutton is your wide receiver 1. Guess your wide receiver 2 is maybe Tim Patrick, who's been heavily injury plagued throughout his early career. You don't really have much at the running back position. Defensive line, offensive line is both suspect. And then you take Bo Nix at 12, the 6-year senior, who couldn't win anything in college football for real, no matter what team he was on. And it's like I said, I'm not a believer in Sean Payton. Is he a good offensive mind? Yes. Is he a great coach? I don't think so. Like I said, he had Drew Brees, a Hall of Fame QB, future Hall of Fame QB, first ballot. He was able to get 1 Super Bowl with him. He only made 1 Super Bowl with him. He wasn't even able to get back. And I know obviously 1 year it was that horrific call, missed DPI call versus the Rams. I believe that was the 2018
I had the Rams
year.
money line in that game. It was a great call.
It was a great call.
It was a great call.
Yeah, as a Chiefs fan, that's the year we lost to the Patriots, and that game was first, and I wanted a rematch with the Rams from them beating us 54-51, so I was okay with it. But besides them, I mean, there's not much, and I see the comment, not a Javonte Williams fan. When he first came onto the scene, he was pretty good. Like I said, you can't really run anywhere if you don't have the line necessary to do that. I don't think they're going to have the line, and then on top of that, whether you're starting Zach Wilson, Bo Nix, maybe Jarrett Stidham, either 3 of them, none of them are commanding any respect from the defense. So teams are just going to stack the box, and that's going to make the run game even harder. And I just don't see Denver doing anything. I think they do finish at the bottom of the AFC West, maybe if something else goes wrong for the Raiders. But we'll talk about that when we get to the Raiders. But yeah, I don't see much happening for Denver, and I don't see much happening for a couple years because I don't think Bo Nix was the answer. But hey, maybe Sean QB can tap back into his QB whisperer stuff and prove everybody wrong. But as of right now, it was mind-boggling to see that pick. I thought they would have went Brock Bowers because he was next best available, and they let him fall to the Raiders. So yeah, I'm interested to see what Denver actually is this year because I have no idea at this point.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I mean, how much do we trust Bo Nix? Doesn't really have a big arm, basically a game manager. And he's stepping in. He's got to replace Russell Wilson. Wilson threw for over 3,000 yards, had 26 TDs and 8 INTs when missing 2 games. Nix ain't going to come anywhere near that. And the crazy thing is if they beat the Pats, Week 18 would have been a win-in-year-in game for them to the playoffs.
Yeah.
And now this team is completely nothing. This team probably will be the worst team in the league. One of the worst 3 teams in the league. I love Javonte Williams. I've been a huge Javonte Williams guy, but they brought another running back into the mix when they drafted Estemain from Notre Dame. That tells me Williams is gone after this year because of this contract situation. They also have P. Ryan and McLaughlin. I think this is a very crowded backfield. Honestly, what I think is going to happen is Estemain is going to be the lead back. Williams will be the third down back. McLaughlin will play 50% of the games. He's going to be inactive a lot, and P. Ryan will eventually be cut. That's kind of what I think is going to be played out. The X wide receiver has always produced in the Payton system. That's where you mentioned Cortland Sutton is going to be. He had over 700 yards and 10 touchdowns last season. With how bad this defense is going to be, they're going to be throwing the ball a lot. The X wide receiver is the first read. His receiving total is 825.5. And I really want to get that. I really want to get there. But I just can't do it because I don't trust Bo Nix. I literally do not trust Bo Nix. But his ADP is 110. He's wide receiver 49. At those numbers, I will look to draft him in my fantasy football leagues. You mentioned their offensive line. They lost my boy Cushenberry, who went to the Titans. He was the center for LSU when they were the greatest football team ever. I think that's a huge loss. They lost Simmons and Judy, as you mentioned. They have a negative 17 rest advantage, second worst in the NFL. You mentioned Nix's Oregon days. We need to remember they brought in Franklin, who is his number 1. Is he just going to look to target him all the time? Kind of like a 4-step down version of what Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase are. You know what I mean? Like, but you know what I'm saying is he's just going to look to target him all the time. And also, look, I'm sure Van Joseph is a nice guy, but I literally hate him as a DC. 27th points allowed, 4th most total yards allowed, 30th rushing yards allowed, 28th passing TDs, 22nd passing yards, last in yards per carry. And now you lost Simmons. They have Surtain, who's going to travel with the wide receiver 1, but who's going to be the DB that shuts down the wide receiver 2? This Broncos team is going to be bad. I'm going to look to go against them in DFS. I'll look to play Sutton some right times. I want nothing to do with this team. Sutton in fantasy, I'm intrigued by, but other than that, I'm going to look to fade them when they play tight ends. Van Joseph's defense can't cover tight ends, and you can run against them. I'm going to be doing a lot of player props against the Broncos this year.
Yeah, and honestly, depending on how bad they start, you honestly might see Surtain offered in some trade talks just to kind of recoup some picks. Because, I mean, at this point, I feel like they got to go full rebuild. And because they made the terrible Russ trade, they got to get some of that back now. And Surtain's the most valuable piece they have, and you're not going to pay him all that money in the midst of a rebuild to a cornerback. So he might be gone by like week 5 or something. If they start 0-4, teams will start calling and offering some pretty nice packages.
And he would be a great guy to get. I mean, I'd love to see him in a Lions uniform. Wouldn't surprise me if we see a wide receiver go down, or if the Chargers, let's say the Chargers turn out to be good, but there's definitely that wide receiver missing. See them make a trade for Sutton, or the Jags. I think the Jags could use a wide receiver, then make a move for Sutton. Steelers, maybe if they start out good, they can make a loop. That's a good point. If this team starts off like bad, we could see them look to make some moves so that way they can start that rebuild. Now, how much time are you giving Sean Payton?
I was honestly, so I even put in my notes, one of my bullet points was, if this year is just extremely horrific, considering all he was saying when he got the job, and then the whole Russ debacle, because like you just pointed out a couple minutes ago, Russ really didn't have a bad year, statistically speaking, and they were one game away from making the playoffs. But obviously, him and Sean Payton did not get along for whatever reason. Obviously, there's been rumors over the last couple of years of former teammates of Russ speaking out about how he's, I guess, not the best, teammate in a sense, and kind of a prima donna in the locker room. But Sean Payton kind of just threw him under the bus, and Russ kind of had to take all the blame. They shipped him to Pittsburgh or cut him, and now he's in Pittsburgh. But if this year goes horribly too, I feel like Sean Payton, the seat is pretty hot at that point because you were supposed to inherit what was a decent team and with your coaching prowess potentially make them a playoff team, and now you're just going backwards. So if this year is horrible, I think because they did just give him the contract they gave him and signed him, I think that he'll get a third year. But that third year, nothing looks like it's turning around. I think you have to move off of him, and then it's like, here we go in the cycle again. Ever since Peyton has been gone, the Broncos have been in an endless cycle of just complete mediocrity. And like I said, as a Chiefs fan, I'm not going to complain because that just makes it one less team we really have to worry about in the AFC West en route to trying to get home field advantage for the playoffs.
But the thing that sucks is their lines are going to get inflated, and I know as a bettor, I'm going to be betting this team more than I should be. Next team. I think this is where we're going to start fighting, my friend.
Oh, man.
We got the Raiders, 100-1 to win the Super Bowl, 60-1 to win the AFC, 9-1 to win the AFC West. To make the playoffs, plus 350, no, minus 400, over under 6.5. Give me your thoughts on the Las Vegas Raiders, my friend. I almost said Oakland Raiders, so that's why I had to pause.
Okay, before I give my thoughts, I wanted to ask you, have you got a chance to tune into the new Receiver show on Netflix?
I watched the last, I started the first, I think I got through the first episode.
Okay.
I think I got, because the first episode didn't have Williams and Devontae Adams on it, right? Not Williams.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
Yeah. So I got through the first episode. I haven't watched anything else. My goal is to watch 2 over the weekend.
Okay, yeah, you definitely got to tune in there because not to rain on your parade, and I don't know what you're about to say, but from the looks of that show, last year Devontae Adams was very unhappy, and rightfully so, because Jimmy G was just playing quarterback horrifically. They make the switch to O'Connell, who made some improvements, but he's nothing special. It's not like he's some elite talent. I don't know how much truth it is to the rumors, but now there's rumors saying that Devontae Adams might be traded to the New York Jets somehow before the season is even started to be back with Aaron Rodgers because he's not happy in Las Vegas. Obviously, he grew up an Oakland fan. That's part of the reason why he went to the Raiders. Another part of the reason was to go play with his college quarterback, Derek Carr. That thing lasted 1 year. While they had a good connection, the Raiders didn't win. Obviously, they got rid of Carr. In the show, Devontae Adams was literally seen like they had a clip where he literally said, yeah, like if they weren't gonna bench Jimmy, I was gonna stop playing and request out of there. Like I made the call to bench Jimmy G in favor of Aiden O'Connell. So that scares me a little bit. I do think that Antonio Pierce is a player's coach. A lot of those guys will ride for him. Obviously, you got Max Crosby. They got Wilkins in the offseason to help him in the interior. So that defensive line will be nice. I think the defense will be solid behind Antonio Pierce. That offense is just what scares me. I don't know what direction they're headed in because it looks like they wanted a quarterback. They were unable to trade up and get whatever quarterback they wanted. They then take Brock Bowers, which isn't a bad pick. But I get it's the best player left on the board, so you pick him up. But it was kind of like we don't know what direction we're going in now because last year they just drafted Luke Mayer, who's actually a pretty decent tight end. So now you got 2 tight ends, Devontae Adams, what's his name? I'm blanking on his name, but Jacoby Myers. They got decent weapons. I don't know who's going to be throwing them the ball. You get Gardner Minshew. I thought Gardner Minshew was starting, but I was reading some things. I think they said Aiden O'Connell is still listed on the depth chart as number 1 over him. I don't know if that's going to be a QB battle, but I would personally start Gardner Minshew, just seeing what he's been able to do over the last couple of years when he's given the opportunity. I think the Raiders can be tough. I think they can definitely be tough. But if they get off to a rocky start here or there, that's what worries me because I don't know how much of their star players are going to want to stick around like a Devontae Adams when he's last year was clearly frustrated with the organization and the way they were moving, the way they were playing. And now there's rumors about him going to the Jets. And I don't know if you've seen the clip of Aaron Rodgers earlier this week at some golf tournament. Some guy asked him a question as he was walking past the hole, and he said, "Oh yeah, Miss Devontae, can't wait to play with them soon," or something like that. And it was like, what does he mean by that? Now, obviously, this could all be rumors and it can not happen, but there's smoke, there's fire. And after watching that show, there's definitely a bit of smoke there after last season for Las Vegas. So I'm I'm wondering what they're gonna do, but it's gonna be interesting because they did move off of Josh Jacobs. He obviously wanted a contract they weren't willing to give. So now it's was it Zamir, I think is his name. He's going to be taking the lead role in the backfield. But yeah, I think they'll have a really solid defense. Offense is just a little suspect for me. I'd like to see, what they got going on first as the season starts to get closer.
So, what can we expect from this team? 5-4 to finish the season. They didn't have a quarterback, as you mentioned. With that being said, with all the free agents they signed, they didn't get a quarterback. So this is what I think. I think they were planning on drafting Penix and giving the keys to Penix. But then with the Falcons, for some reason, drafting Penix when all their holes, they panicked and they just took the best available. I think they had a plan to take Penix and give him the keys, but that's why I think the head-scratching pick of Bowers happened. This offensive line is solid. And when you look at Zamir White's production behind it, you have to take note the last 4 games. He averaged 21 rushing attempts per game, 99.25 yards per game, and averaged 4.7 yards per carry. Raiders selected one of my guys from the draft, Jackson Powers Johnson, an interior offensive lineman from Oregon, one of the best interior offensive linemen in the draft. I think this line is actually going to be better than last season. And I think they're going to really look to run the football. We need to remember it was just 2 years ago they had the leading rusher in the league. I think we're going to see a repeat of that. Josh Jacobs was a gap runner. He is gone. They are switching to an zone blocking scheme with Craig as their offensive line coach. At Georgia, White averaged over 5 yards a carry in zone runs. So with that being said, I am betting Zamir White over 800.5 yards rushing and Zamir White plus 3,100 to lead the league in rushing yards. Now, Minshew's under center. I don't know how much I can trust him, but he's going to be in a Getsy's offense. He's the offensive coordinator. Had the 6th most RPO plays last year in Chicago. Minshew in Indianapolis had the 4th most. So this is another reason why I really like Zamir White. I'm out on Bowers this season. Historically, rookie tight ends haven't done well. When you look at my boy Laporta, he really only did stuff in 3 games. You take those 3 games out of Laporta, he didn't have that good of a season. Crazy how I've gotten this far, and I'm not talking about Devontae Adams. This is a first-read offense. Minshew had a first-read target share of 28% last season. With that being said, Adams is in line for a huge year. He's going to get thrown the ball a lot. I know he's a year older, but I think he's really under the radar in terms of fantasy. Defensively, this team is crazy legit. People are missing out on it. They brought in Wilkins and free agent, added Crosby up front, and you have the young kid Wilson. Call me crazy. This team could have the best defensive line in the NFL. If the Raiders get anything out of the quarterback position, this is going to be a really interesting team. And I think they could make the run at the division. I really like this defense. I think it's going to be one of those top 5 teams in the league. I think this is going to be the defense that in fantasy, everyone's like, oh, shit. You know what I mean? That scores over 15 points a game. I'm betting the Raiders to make the playoffs at plus 350.
That's an interesting one. Not
So
mad at it. I just it really just depends on their start for me because I feel like so I don't know about this whole rumor about Devontae Adams possibly being traded before the season's starts. But I know on the show he was just very frustrated because he realizes he's got more behind him than he's got left in front of him, and he wants to win a championship. Now, in saying that, in retrospect, I don't know why you went to Las Vegas in the first place. If championship was like your main priority, I get the whole wanting to play with Derek Carr thing, but Derek Carr wasn't going to lead you to a Super Bowl, and everybody else knew that. I'm sure he did too.
yeah,
But if they get off to a bad start, I feel like he might then force his way out to try to get to a winning team and have that opportunity. Like I said, I think Gardner Minshew should start. I think he will start. I think he'll be serviceable. Gardner Minshew is always at least good to start off the year. As the year goes on, he kind of tails off and kind of comes back down to earth a little bit. But I think he'll be good enough to, keep them in most games and win a couple early. But yeah, the defensive line, I completely agree with you. Max Crosby is a beast. I hope some way, somehow, his career ends up with him being a Chief for just a little bit of time because him and Mahomes got a unique relationship the way they compete on the field. Wilkins was a big pickup, and like I said, Antonio Pierce, he had that team playing last year. For his sake, I hope they do play good because I would hate for him. I think they would be quick to throw him under the bus if shit did hit the fan this year, even though this is his first time being a full-time head coach. But I'm rooting for him, just not against the Chiefs. And they definitely can upset some teams. They were in a lot of games last year. They had that infamous game where they blew out the Chargers by it was 63-21, I think the final score. That was like one of those games where it's like, I don't know what happened. But yeah, Devontae Adams, if he can get his targets early and they can win games, I think they'll be solid for the year to go. He'll stay with them. Like I said, the whole AFC West has just been pretty mediocre besides the Chiefs for the last 5-6 years. So at some point, somebody's got to get better. Someone's got to, be a decent team. They'll definitely be battling with the Chargers for that second spot in the AFC West. The only thing, and what I was mentioning when I was talking about the Broncos being last, the only way I see the Raiders being last is if they do get off to a bad start or Devontae Adams just traded straight up before the season even starts. Then it's like, oh, now we're kind of in limbo because that's your bona fide number one wide receiver gone. That kind of changes up a lot of what you have going into the season. But if he stays, I can see them fighting, for a wild card spot towards the end of the season.
And you mentioned it. I mean, they start at the Chargers. I really think that game is just going to come down to the Chargers' inability to stop the run. I know that the Chargers are really trendy because of Harbaugh. You lose day, they're going to lead on the run. After that, they play Baltimore, which is probably a loss. But then you got Carolina. They should be able to beat Carolina. Got Cleveland at home. I mean, I think that could be a winnable game because of the way they're going to play it. Then you have Denver and Pittsburgh. So, I mean, if you get a win at Los Angeles to start the season, and there's going to be more Raiders fans there than Chargers fans,
you
got something. But if they lose that game, I think you're completely right. I think they're going to struggle a lot to do anything. Now we're to your team, my friend, the Kansas City Chiefs, defenders Super Bowl champions, plus 500 to win the Super Bowl, plus 300 to win the AFC, minus 230 to win the West, to make the playoffs, minus 600, yes, no, plus 425, over under 11.5. Talk to me about your boys, my friend.
Last year, regular season was the worst we've seen in the Mahomes era. Wide receiver corps, obviously the main problem, all the drops. Just weren't finishing drives in the end zone, settling for a lot of field goals, a lot of dysfunction. But we had a top 3, top 2 defense, however you want to put it, who could get timely stops. And we leaned on them throughout the season. And then come playoff time, Mahomes went into that mode. He did what he had to do while still relying on that top 2 defense. And lo and behold, back in the Super Bowl, back breaking San Francisco 49er fans' hearts all over the country. And this year, we revamped the wide receiver room. So I think we're going to get air raid Mahomes back once again. I think his prop is, I seen it at 4,350 and a half passing yards after the year he had last year. And he's come out on record now and say, like, last year we were not having fun. Obviously, the pressure of going back to back. We failed doing it in 2020 when that was honestly one of the greatest regular seasons we had. We were 14-1 rolling, rested our starters. Then we get banged up in the playoffs, obviously get murdered in the Super Bowl by Tampa Bay. So last year they had that pressure of wanting to be one of those teams that cemented themselves as a team that could go back to back, cement the dynasty. That monkey is now off their back. Feel like they're going to be playing more freely. I think Mahomes is going to murder that passing prop. His touchdowns is at 33.5. I think he's going to murder that as well. I will say for people, take caution with Xavier Worthy. I know he's a trendy pick now because it's like, oh, fastest player, fastest 40 combine time in league history. Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, he's going to kill it. More times than not, rookie wide receivers don't thrive in an Andy Reid offense their first year. Last year, Rashee Rice was an outlier, and he was kind of forced into that situation just because of how bad every other wide receiver was playing. And they finally started to insert him more along like week 6, week 7. So I got Xavier Worthy under 750.5 reception yards. I don't think he'll get that many. We'll use him in gadget plays, run, reverses, jet sweeps, all sorts of stuff. We'll find ways to use him, but I don't think he'll be that heavily. He won't be that heavily involved in the offense, especially early on. Now there is the pending case. I don't know what's going to happen to Rashee Rice. I don't know if he's going to be suspended for 4 games, suspended for the season, not suspended at all. That still is very much up in the air. But what I will say is, and I'm very excited to see, and I'm betting this as well, for the first time ever, now that we do have speed with Hollywood Brown, Xavier Worthy, healthy Travis Kelce, the middle should be back open again. Rashee Rice, if we do have him, we should be facing lighter boxes again. And for the 2 years we've had Isaiah Pacheco, he's been a workhorse, but he hasn't been facing light boxes because we got rid of Tyreek the year we drafted him. So teams started pressing back up. They've been clogging up the middle for Travis because that's the one guy we have. Now you got speed vertically down the field, and defenses have to worry about that. We have one of the best interior offensive lines, if not the best in the league, with Creed, Trey Smith, and Joe Thuney. I think Isaiah Pacheco is finally going to crack 1,000 yards this year as long as he stays healthy. I think you're going to see him in if you remember 2018 when we had Kareem Hunt and he was tearing the league up before he unfortunately kicked that woman and then got kicked off the team. I think we'll see Pacheco kind of in that kind of role with more of a load to share. And I think he'll have a really big year. And I think honestly, after last year, the way it went with the regular season, and obviously everybody's like, oh, the Chiefs are broken. They're not going to do this. They're not going to do that. Then to go on the run we have, like I said, all the pressure's gone off our shoulders. I think, honestly, we're about to run the table again. And unless they have voters fatigue, I think Mahomes very much will be an MVP favorite because he's going to finish the year, I believe, with around 4,800 plus yards and about 40 touchdown passes, I think, this year. I think it's guns a-blazing again. They're about to let the chopper sing, however you want to say it, let the ball fly. And it's going to be scary for defense again because he's going to remind people because now, we had Tyreek, we lose him. Everybody's like, oh, Mahomes doesn't know how to take the short pass. He doesn't know how to take what the defense gives him. Well, we do that for the last 2 years. We went to Super Bowls, and everybody's like, oh, Mahomes last year, he didn't have but like 3 completions over 20 yards down the field. And it's like, okay, well, now we go back, get speed. This is what you want. This is what you're going to get. Travis Kelce, for the first time, I think, probably since his rookie year, his reception prop is under 1,000 yards. It's over 900.5. I think he's going to kill that because, like I said, the middle should be back open for him. Defenses can't focus as much on him with Hollywood Brown on the outside. Yeah, the three-peat is very much in play. Like I said, the difference between us and the Patriots, Tom Brady was a game manager. Patrick Mahomes, He's literally, and the scary thing is he's literally probably entering his prime as of right now. Year 7 in the league. He's about to be 29 years old. Like, he's really just entering his prime. He's only going to elevate from here. It might be really scary to the point where if we do what I think we can this year, it kind of makes debates about the NFL kind of pointless, because at this point we're just arguing about who's number 2, and like, who wants to argue about being the first loser? Like, nobody wants credit for that, really. But that's the territory we can possibly enter if we take over this year.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of crazy when you think about it. They could win 3 in a row, and Mahomes had his worst season last year, and they won the Super Bowl. Now, this stat is going to blow your mind. Where did Mahomes rate in deep ball rate last year?
I know he was towards the bottom because we could not connect on a deep ball to save our lives.
30th.
Yeah.
30th in the deep ball rate, which is just amazing when you really just think about it with how good he is. I think that adding Worthy and Brown additions are great because you're going to have 2 field stretchers on the outside. Honestly, I'm not a big Worthy guy. Thought he was the second best wide receiver on Texas last year. Brown will be a spot matchup. I'll look to take advantage, play his overs certain times, but I really just don't trust him. There'll be some week-to-week stuff. I think the additions were great. It's going to bring the safeties back, open up the inside part of the field. Well, huge year for Kelsey, like you're saying, who even at 34 should eat. And Rashid Rice. Personally, I think what's going to happen is it's going to be a lot like the Kamara situation, where he plays the season, then the next season he's suspended to start it. Rice was second with yards after catch last season, and that's going to be huge when you have the field stretchers on the outside, really going to open up the middle for Rice. Offensive line in the interior is great, but Taylor struggled last season, shell of himself, nothing what they saw from Jacksonville. If he can't regain form, are they going to bench him? What are they going to do? They really don't have that depth in the offensive line, and he is one of the few weaknesses on the Chiefs offense. Defensively, they were great last season. I really feel that George Karlaftis last season took a huge advantage of teams doubling Jones. What is it going to be like now with teams looking to take him out a little bit more? Because teams are going to adjust. Now, how does he handle the adjustment? You mentioned losing Snead. I think that's going to put huge pressure on McDuffie to be that lockdown corner. But let's be honest. I really think your defense in the back four is going to bleed production. I think that we're going to go back where it's going to be on Jones to get a sack, Jones to make a good play, Karnakis to make a play, because Spags is great. He can scheme with the best of them. But I'm a little worried about losing Snead and the talent you guys got in the back four. I have you guys going 10-7. I have you guys going 10-7, man.
Oh, look, I'll give you 2 names to watch out for. Obviously, losing Snead after the year he had was a big loss. But you do have Trent McDuffie, who's a all-pro corner himself. Part of the reason we won that Tyreek trade. But we have Charmary Connor, number 27. He came in last year, was playing the slot role, and you'll see him take some of those CB2 snaps. But we also have a guy by the name of Nick Jones, was a camp favorite the year before, unfortunately tore his ACL, but Spags loved him, was kind of using him the same way he was using Snead as kind of like a Swiss Army knife. Like you said, he can scheme with the best of them. I expect both of them to heavily step up and kind of take over that role when Spags sends those random corner blitzes that always get to the quarterback or cause a deflection. I think we'll be okay. A lot of people, while I get Snead had a great year last year, we've had Snead for 4 years prior to that. Well, he was good. Last year was his best year, and it was a contract year, so you kind of know how that goes. We got him in the 4th round, so I mean, we got everything out of him. You're not gonna pay a guy max money from a 4th round pick when you literally just drafted an all-pro corner in the 1st round the year prior. It'll be kind of be corner by committee. But if you remember in the 2022 run, we actually unfortunately had L'Jarius Snead go out with a concussion. And that
Yep.
AFC Championship game, literally the first drive, and we just had to have corners step up. We still got Watson and Williams, two pretty good corners. So it'll be cornerback by committee, but I trust Spags will have those guys ready to go, and they'll be in year 3 of his system, so even more of an understanding with what Spags wants to do. Obviously, still have Chris Jones wreaking havoc up front. And honestly, I think we potentially might have the best linebacker core this year because we're finally going to unleash Leo Chenal, who's a great run stopper. He was kind of in the linebacker 4 spot because we were deep there. Willie Gay, Drew Tranquil. But now you'll have Tranquil, Nick Bolton starting, and I think Chenal will be kind of the mic that comes in and out first and second down and then probably goes out on third. But hard hitter, can stuff the run. I'm not saying the defense will be top 5 again because that's just hard to repeat year in, year out, top 5 defense. But I definitely think this defense has the capability to be top 12. And with the offensive firepower we added back, like you said, Mahomes is 30th in deep ball completion rate. The competitor he is, he hears all the talks. I know that's pissing him off. He'll be back to show the league this year, like, hey, like, I'll just adapt again when y'all say I can't do something well. Show y'all, prove it. And like I said, for the last 2 years on the podcast, I've been calling us, winning the Super Bowl. Called it last year, then doubled down in the playoffs, even though we didn't look like a Super Bowl winning team at the point. Say now, if there's any time to be, a 3-peat champion in the NFL, it's now. We have the team, we have the players, we have the coach to do it. The only thing is health, because this is a do or die league, and your season can literally end with the injury of one significant player. So that obviously plays a huge factor. But if the core can stay healthy, sky's the limit for this team, and I think we have a good chance to see the first ever 3-peat. And then conversations really become fun at that point, because then I know Brady's got 7, but Mahomes would have 4 and probably 4 Super Bowl MVPs and potentially maybe another NFL MVP at that point. I just feel like what our eyes would be seeing at that point, you can't sit up here and lie to yourself and say this dude isn't the GOAT for coming into the league and literally taking it over from the very start. So they're definitely excited for the season to come. Can't wait to get it started. Been missing football. Obviously, we're kind of in that dead zone of the summer where not all sports are on. NBA's gone, NFL's gone. WNBA's been fun. But that's about to take a break because we have the Olympics coming up. So that'll be nice to see. But yeah, just excited for football to come back.
Yeah, I mean, like, today is one of the worst sports days in the world, man. I mean, there's literally nothing on.
Nothing.
Literally nothing on. One person in the chat asked why I didn't bet the All-Star game. Coin flip. I don't bet coin flips. If you bet it and you guys won it, congratulations. But I would never bet an All-Star game of any kind. Bryce, I'd like to thank you for taking time out of your day to come on, talk a little AFC West. Why don't you tell everyone where they can find you on social media and when your podcast will be returning?
Yes, you can find me at the @ on the screen, INeeeedSportsPod on YouTube, X, Instagram, at an underscore at the end for our Instagram. TikTok is the same as the @. Yeah, we're coming out. We're kind of in a little dead zone right now with the sports being the way it is. And unfortunately, I am located in Houston. I don't know if you guys have heard or kept up, but we recently just got hit by a hurricane, so that kind of threw us off last week, not having power. So hopefully next week we'll get back to recording. We should be dropping an episode Thursday morning. I believe that'll be top 10 running backs. It was an episode we previously recorded a couple weeks ago. Was going to edit and upload it last week, but the storm kind of knocked us out. But yeah, we'll get right back to it. Hopefully get a chance to edit some of the clips I had from Vegas. Going to that Aces game, kind of did like a little mini vlog. And then we'll honestly be tuning in to some Olympic stuff. And then I don't know about you, Erik, but the last real football video game I played was College Football 14. So I downloaded College Football 25 yesterday, literally played it all throughout the night. And I actually just ordered a webcam from Amazon for Prime Day. So we're looking to kind of start some serious college football. We're going to have some friendly dynasty leagues going. Going to have some road to glory stuff. So probably going to be uploading a little bit of that so y'all can see another side of I Needed Sports. But yeah, just looking to get back into it after being out for a couple weeks. So
so like, are you going to do the one where you take a team and try to get it to like the next level?
Yeah, I'll be doing the Dynasty, and then I actually started yesterday. So they have this thing now where the Road to Glory, it used to be you start off in high school, so you can become like a blue chip recruit by just killing the high school. Now it starts you off in college, but you get to pick, like, do you want to be a 5-star recruit, a 3-star, 2-star, all the way to a 1-star, where it starts you off at 60 overall. So I started off as a 60 overall underdog, and it's the game is hard. I'll just say that they will literally sit you on the bench the whole season, if not multiple seasons, if you're not in the right position and you don't get your stats up. And then you still have to go to school now, make your grades to be eligible. You have to earn the coach's trust and go to practice. So it's a lot of fun things going. But that I'll be trying to do a Road to Glory underdog on the highest level, which is Heisman, where they have teams like FCS schools playing like out of their minds, like Alabama. So it'll definitely be a funny thing to get going and something to look forward to later in the summer.
I want to get that. That's on my list. I haven't decided what team I want to be, though. Part of me, I don't know. I can't be my boys at Michigan State just because I want to take like one of those mid-tier teams. Maybe I'll take like an EMU, an Eastern Michigan, a Central Michigan, maybe an Akron, or maybe FIU. Maybe I'll take FIU. Maybe I'll be the Panthers.
Yesterday, I took UNT to the college football playoff as a quarterback. So that's the one I've been working on.
Okay. Respect to that. Make sure to check that out, guys. I'll be actually going on Bryce's podcast with a couple weeks or so, talk a little NFC North. Really looking forward to that. Make sure to give him a follow. We'll be back next week with Gino previewing the NFC West. Make sure to check that out. And good luck in I was going to say good luck in your bets, but we didn't do any bets today. We just gave out some futures. So, good luck in your futures. And, I'll talk to you soon, my friend.
See you soon.